It was about a month ago when I had that job as a security guard at the mall. I was 32 and working the night shift. I needed the money to pay off my student loans. The mall felt empty at night. It was huge, filled with dark stores and flickering lights that made the silence louder. I wasn't thrilled about being alone, but it was a paycheck. One night around midnight, I sat in the security room staring at the monitors. Eyes heavy, I almost didn't notice it at first. A flicker on one of the cameras caught my attention. I thought it was just a glitch, something I could ignore. But when I rewound the footage, my heart raced. A shadow glided past the screen. I felt cold. I wanted to convince myself it was nothing. I was just tired. On my next shift, I stayed alert. I needed to know if I was imagining things. Again, around midnight, I saw it, the same dark figure standing at the food court. It didn't move. My palms got sweaty and my throat tightened. Maybe it was a reflection or a prank. I tried to tell myself that, but deep down, I felt a knot in my stomach. What was that? Later that week, as I walked through the back hallway, I heard scraping noises, like something was dragging along metal. I thought it was maintenance, but when I checked, nothing was there. My skin prickled. I hurried back to the security room and went through the footage again. The hallway was empty, but I knew I had heard something. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. Then one night, everything changed. I was scanning the screens when I saw that same figure again, now beside a closed store. My heart pounded. I wanted to look away, but felt glued to the screen. My throat felt dry, and I tried to ask, "Is anyone there?" But the words stuck in my chest. No answer came. I sat there, breaths quickening, frozen with fear. I leaned closer to the screen, my mind racing. Immediately, the figure turned toward me. A rush of cold air swirled around me. I thought it was just a trick of the camera. I said out loud, "Who's there?" That was when it happened. The figure seemed to open its mouth. Panic rose in me, and I thought, what does it want? But before I could process it, it vanished from the screen. I blinked, frantically rewinding the video. There was nothing, just a black screen where it had been. I still jump at shadows since that night. The mall feels different now. Something was there with me. A month has passed, but I still wonder, did I see it, or was it all in my head? That feeling of something lurking, it won't go away. I wish I understood what happened. I had tried to adjust to my shifts, but the weight of what I saw on that monitor lingered. Each night felt like a countdown to an unseen threat. One night, I decided to do something different. Instead of watching the cameras, I would patrol the mall more. Maybe getting up and moving would ease the crawling anxiety. The first few laps around the empty halls went well. My footsteps echoed softly, the only sound in the otherwise silent space. But the bravado I built quickly evaporated when I found myself back at the food court. The tables and chairs loomed like ghostly remnants of life once there. Then I caught a shift of movement, a flicker from the corner of my eye. I turned, expecting to see the dark figure again, but there was nothing, just the faint hum of the mall's air conditioning. I almost left when I heard it, a soft, distant giggle. It was high and playful, out of place in the empty food court. A chill raced up my spine. I squinted into the darkness, trying to identify the source, but all I saw were the shadows stretching across the floor. "Hello?" I called out, my voice wavering. No response. I shook my head, convincing myself that my mind was playing tricks. I took a deep breath, fighting the urge to run back to the security room. Instead, I stepped toward the sound, my heart hammering against my ribcage. That's when I heard it again, a louder, clearer laugh. It sent me backpedaling. I glanced up, and there it was, the figure. Only now it was standing just outside the food court, in the archway to another corridor. I froze. My instincts screamed to flee, but I was locked in place. Then it disappeared into the shadows.
but that laughter echoed in my mind. I wanted to sprint back to the security room and hide, but a strange urge kept me rooted. I had to know what was happening. I turned my flashlight on and followed the sound into the corridor. As I walked forward, the air felt heavier. I gripped the flashlight tightly, pushing through the mounting dread. I reached a dead end, a storage area filled with boxes. It was dark, the only light coming from my flashlight beam. I directed it around the corners, checking the shelves. Nothing. But there were strange marks on the floor, like scuff marks, leading away from the boxes and toward an emergency exit door. I felt my breath quicken. Suddenly, my radio crackled to life. "Attention! Attention!" It was my shift supervisor, but the words were garbled and distorted. My stomach dropped as I tried to decipher the message. But before I could make sense of it, the lights in the entire mall started flickering. Tension surged within me. I turned back, and there it was. The figure was now standing behind me, closer than ever. I didn't breathe. Its mouth opened again, but this time I heard something different. A voice. A whisper laced beneath the giggle. "Stay with us." I bolted. Every instant screamed for me to run. I burst back into the food court, hurrying to the security room. I slumped against the door, my heart racing. That laughter followed me, echoing in my mind. I had to review the footage again. I needed to see if it was on camera. When I reached the security room, I plugged in the feed. But my blood turned to ice. The cameras were all frozen. No footage from tonight. Nothing kept in evidence. Just a blank screen. Panic gripped me.
What was I dealing with? Who was that? I shut my eyes, feeling the weight of the emptiness surround me. And then, from behind, I heard a faint giggle creeping closer. My heart pounded as I turned around, expecting to confront whatever was following me. But the room was empty, just the dim glow of the monitors casting eerie shadows on the walls. I took a shaky breath, aware of how quiet everything had become. No echoes, no signs of life. The only noise was the incessant beeping of my radio, still crackling with garbled static. I grabbed it, trying to regain some semblance of composure. "Hello? Is anyone there?" My voice sounded small and unsure. Nothing, just the hum of technology and the empty mall beyond. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw movement on the monitors. I moved closer, heart racing, fully expecting to see the figure again. But there was only white static on every screen. Then, just as quickly, I spotted a flash, a face, contorted, a laugh slipping through the thin veil of static. It flickered away before I could comprehend what I'd seen. "Stay with us," echoed through my mind again. The childlike giggle twisted into something unbearable. I had to find out what was happening, but fear kept me glued in place. With steely determination, I turned back toward the door. I had to go back out there. Maybe there was someone in the mall, playing some kind of sick prank on me. I stepped into the hall, gripping the flashlight like a lifeline. Each step felt heavier as I returned to the food court. I scanned the shadows, hoping to find the figure. The darkness wrapped around me, thick and suffocating. I drew my flashlight beam across the tables and chairs, and then, there it was again, just outside my vision. This time, I approached with purpose. There had to be something, some clue to piece together what was happening. I followed the flicker into the corridor I hadn't checked earlier. As I walked deeper, I noticed the marks on the floor again, leading toward a set of double doors. They were slightly ajar. A sense of urgency shot through me. I pushed the doors open, revealing a utility room. Pipes ran along the walls, and it smelled of damp darkness. I flicked the light switch inside, and the overhead bulbs flickered to life, casting a dim orange glow. My throat tightened when I saw something in the corner. A doll, dirty and cracked, sitting atop a stack of cardboard boxes. I knew that doll.
It was one I had seen displayed in the toy store, an item never sold, left to gather dust. "Why is it here?" I whispered to myself, feeling a knot tighten in my gut. Just then, a rustling noise drew my attention. I swung my flashlight toward the sound, and the beam fell on a darkened corner. That's when I saw it. A small door, not much larger than a doggy door, opened slightly, causing the shadows to shift unnaturally. I felt my heart drop as the faint sound of laughter drifted through. My legs felt like they were stuck in quicksand.
Should I go closer or run? But my own curiosity pushed me forward, the desire to confront whatever was lurking just behind that door. I leaned in closer, the laughter growing clearer. Just as I was about to reach for the handle, everything went dark. The lights flickered out completely, plunging me into pitch black. I stood frozen, the laughter now swirling around me, a menacing chorus in the darkness. I took a breath, my heart hammering in my chest. The laughter reverberated off the walls, wrapping around me like a cold blanket. I fumbled for the flashlight, trying to keep the beam steady, but the darkness felt alive. "Hello?" I called out, my voice barely a whisper. No response. Only the laughter continued, now blending with a faint whispering that seemed to come from all directions. Panic surged within me. I stumbled back, my foot catching on something. I fell to the ground, the flashlight rolling away from my grasp. As I scrambled to get up, I heard the door creak open wider. The laughter grew louder, a cacophony that sent a chill down my spine. I could barely think. I had to get that flashlight. I finally found it, just inches away, and quickly aimed it at the door. The beam illuminated the space, and I saw that it was empty. Nothing but shadows danced on the edges, but the laughter was still there, echoing off the walls. It felt closer now, almost mocking me. Swallowing my fear, I edged closer to the door. I could see that it led into a narrow passage, one I had never noticed before. "This isn't right," I murmured, feeling the pull of curiosity battling the urge to run. With a deep breath, I stepped through the door. The space was cramped and too quiet now, the laughter fading but not gone. There were no lights, just the darkness swallowing everything whole. I crept forward, my flashlight guiding me through the narrow corridor, which was lined with old pipes and electrical boxes. Suddenly, a metallic clang echoed from deep within the passage. I froze, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Someone had to be down there. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, but something urged me forward. As I moved deeper, the air grew colder. I shivered, not just from the chill, but from a mix of fear and adrenaline. The laughter had stopped. Now, only the sound of dripping water filled the silence. Then, I spotted something in the faint light, scattered papers on the ground. I bent down to pick one up. It looked like an old store inventory sheet, but my breath caught when I saw a name written on it. Leela. It was a name I hadn't heard in years, a girl from my childhood who had gone missing. The discovery hit me hard. Memories of her laugh twisted with my current fear, creating a knot in my stomach. "What is happening?" I whispered to myself, panic surging again. Just then, the laughter returned, echoing from the darker end of the passage. It was different this time, a low, sinister sound that sent ice through my veins. I could feel it. Something was waiting for me. I turned to bolt back toward the door, but as I turned, the flashlight flickered and died. I was plunged into darkness again. "Stay with us." The voice circled around me, chilling me to my core. I stumbled backward, desperate to escape. I heard footsteps, soft and light, approaching from the deep shadows. I had to get out. I had to escape whatever was here with me. I darted forward blindly, feeling my way through the corridor, praying to reach the safety of light once more. I rushed forward, trying to keep my bearings in the pitch-black corridor. My mind raced. What was happening? Why was I here? I stumbled over something,
a heavy object that nearly sent me sprawling. I steadied myself and pressed on, heart racing. Then I heard it again. Light footsteps. They echoed behind me, almost playful, like a child running in circles. I wheeled around, instinctively raising my hands in front of me, as if that could protect me from whatever was following. The whispers returned, a chorus of hushed voices flickering just out of reach. "Come play," they urged, weaving through the darkness. I grit my teeth, refusing to lose control. I was not going to be a victim here. I moved deeper into the hallway, hoping to find some exit, some sign of humanity. The claustrophobic space felt like it was closing in around me. I clutched the flashlight tightly, wishing I could will it back to life. Just then, a glint caught my eye. It was another piece of paper, this one taped to the wall. I rushed over, heart pounding. I briefly illuminated it with my flashlight. It was a photo, faded and creased, showing a group of smiling children on a playground. One of them looked familiar. She had curly hair and bright, cheerful eyes. I squinted at the name written on the back. Leela, age 7. No, I gasped. It couldn't be. My childhood friend who vanished all those years ago. A smile frozen in time. Rage and fear collided in my chest. I tore the photo down, my fingertips brushing against something cold and metal. A latch. Without thinking, I yanked it open, hoping it would lead to freedom. The sound of clinking metal resounded, but instead of a way out, a panel slid aside to reveal a small room. My breath caught in my throat. It was filled with dusty toys, old clothes, and, strangely, rows of faded photographs pinned to the walls. Confusion overwhelmed me. In one corner, I recognized the backdrop. The playground from the photo. It wasn't just a memory. It was a record, a shrine of lives intertwined with shadow. A voice floated from the darkness. "You shouldn't have come here," it taunted. A low, melodic tone that made the hair on my neck stand on end. I turned slowly, panic seeping into my very bones, only to find myself face to face with a figure. It was a girl. Or she had been. Her features were obscured by shadows, but there was something about her, something familiar about her eyes. Leela? I breathed, feeling the weight of years wash over me. "Come play," she shouted, her voice morphing into a chilling echo. The ground beneath me trembled as she advanced. I could see hints of light glimmering in her hollow gaze. This wasn't the girl I remembered. My instincts flared and adrenaline surged as I turned to flee, the room now a chaotic maze of memories and shadows. But as I raced toward the exit, the chilling laughter followed. I had to escape, or I might become part of the twisted history in this cursed place. Each step brought me closer to freedom, but the sinister whispers sang loud in my ears. In an instant, I ran headlong into a wall, solid and unforgiving. I pressed my hands against it, searching for an alternate way out. My breath came in frantic gasps as I felt the cold air seep in around me, brushing against the back of my neck. And then, in a fading memory of light, I heard it. "You're ours now." A feeling of dread enveloped me as darkness reigned around me once more. I stood there, paralyzed, against the wall. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, drowning out the whispers that swirled around me. I couldn't see anything in the dark, but I sensed movement, a presence creeping closer. My instincts screamed at me to run, but fear entwined my limbs in place. Suddenly, the faint sound of giggles filled the room. It was a chorus of hidden voices echoing through the hollow walls. "Play with us," they teased, weaving in and out of my mind like a melancholic song that refused to fade. I fumbled for my flashlight,
But when I pressed the button, the beam flickered weakly before dying altogether. My hands trembled in the dark as I felt my way back, searching for the panel I had entered through. Desperation clawed at me. I had to find a way out. Then, just beyond my reach, I caught a glint of something metallic. I squinted into the darkness and edged closer. It was a doorknob, rusted at the edges, jutting stubbornly from the wall. My heart leaped. A possible escape. Wrapping my fingers around the knob, I twisted it. It resisted at first, but I persisted, body straining against an unseen barrier. With a final turn, the click of the latch released my grip, and I pushed the door open, stepping into a narrow passage. As I moved forward, the air shifted. It felt heavier, charged with an unnatural energy. I paused, listening closely. The giggles had morphed into soft whispers again, drifting through the passage. "Come find us." The corridor stretched endlessly in both directions, but my instincts pulled me to the right. I took cautious steps, the silence weighing heavily on me. Each creak of the floorboards echoed ominously. Memories of Lila haunted my thoughts, twisted and tangled with the shadows that danced around me. Then I saw something on the floor, a crumpled piece of paper. I bent down, and in the dim light filtering in from somewhere afar, I realized it was another photo, this one stained with age and something I couldn't quite identify. The faces looked familiar, a group of children caught in a moment of joy when laughter was innocent. But then a sinking feeling hit me. Something was wrong. So familiar, yet so distorted. The notation on the back compelled me to flip it over. Not all who play return. My breath caught in my throat. There was an urgency in the words, a warning that made my skin crawl. I had to keep moving. Just as I stood up, a cold draft rushed past me, sending chills down my spine. The voices returned, clearer now, full of glee and malice. "You have to join us." Panic surged through me. I sprinted down the passage, adrenaline propelling me forward. The shadows lurked behind, thick and unsparing. Every door and corner I passed loomed like an invitation to an unseen fate. Then I halted as I stumbled across another door, its surface marred by time, but still standing firm. As I reached for the knob, it flung open with force, and I was met with a blinding light. I shielded my eyes, but I could hear them, the giggles, the cruel playfulness, waiting just on the other side. I needed to get out, but looking back into the passage, I felt their gaze upon me. The shadows coiled tighter, and that's when I knew they were not just playing anymore. I was being hunted. I stepped into the blinding light, heart racing like a drum. For a fleeting moment, I thought I had escaped, but the brightness faded quickly, revealing a cramped, dimly lit room. Instead of freedom, I found myself inside what looked like an old storage area filled with dusty boxes and broken furniture. My eyes darted around, seeking any sign of exit. The giggles faded, replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to whisper secrets I wasn't meant to hear. I could feel the walls closing in on me, a sense of claustrophobia mixing with my rising dread. I forced myself to breathe. I couldn't let the fear paralyze me again. As I surveyed my surroundings, the light flickered, revealing something stuck to the wall, a faded poster. I approached it cautiously. It depicted children playing, a serene scene of joy, but the smiles felt twisted, almost mocking. Below the image, a caption read, "Together forever." My fingers brushed against the peeling edges, leaving behind a smudge of dust. It made my stomach churn. Moving away from the poster, I stumbled upon a box marked "Lost Toys." I hesitated, but curiosity won. I kneeled and pried it open, my heart thumping wildly. Inside were plush animals, their faces worn and eyes dull.
But one stood out, a small teddy bear with a stitched smile that felt too wide, too unnerving. It looked as though it had been hugging something tightly. That's when a soft thud echoed through the room. I froze, the bear almost slipping from my hands. The sound had come from behind me. I turned slowly, dread creeping up my spine.
There it was again, a sound like a child whispering. My gut twisted. I couldn't see anyone, but the air thickened, wrapping around me like a heavy fog. "Come play," the voice called softly, inviting, yet sinister. I backed away, heart pounding, knowing I shouldn't have examined that box. The memories of the photo I had found echoed in my mind. Not all who play return. What did that mean for me? Suddenly, the door I had entered through slammed shut. The sound vibrated through me, jarring and final. I pressed against the wall, eyes darting for another way out. Panic tightened around my chest. I needed to escape this twisted game. In the far corner, I spotted a small window, partially obscured by dust. I rushed towards it, my hands trembling. I pressed my face against the glass. It felt like the only glimmer of hope, but I could see nothing outside, just darkness. Then the giggles returned, now closer, more insistent. They swirled around me, taunting me. I was not alone. I needed to act fast. That's when I heard a small voice, clearer now. "You can't leave us." Turning back towards the door, I reconsidered my options. That was when everything went dark again. The light cut out completely, plunging me into an abyss, and I was left in suffocating silence. I scrambled, feeling for the walls, but my hands grasped nothing. The whispers intensified, echoing in the void, and I realized I had become part of their nightmare. I had to find a way out before their game became my reality. When the darkness swallowed me, I instinctively raised my hands in front of my face, expecting to make contact with something solid. Instead, I felt nothing, just the endless black that pressed in around me like a storm. "Stay calm," I whispered to myself, but it barely registered over the rising panic. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to move. I shuffled forward, arms outstretched, hoping to find a wall or any object to guide me. I felt like I was chasing shadows. Then, as abruptly as it vanished, light flickered back to life. I blinked, adjusting to the brightness. The room wasn't the same. Where there had been boxes and toys, now an empty play area stretched before me. A single dim bulb flickered above, casting unsteady shadows. My heart raced again. "What is happening?" I muttered under my breath. Then I heard it, a low, rhythmic tapping. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. I turned slowly, scanning the vacant space, but there was no one in sight. The tapping continued, steady and relentless. It echoed, growing louder, merging with that laughing voice. "Stay and play forever with us." I stumbled towards the sound, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The laughter shifted gears, becoming more urgent, more alive. It filled the air, surrounding me, echoing off the barren walls. I felt like prey in a trap, the laughter becoming both inviting and threatening. Then my eyes caught something. In the far corner, an old television flickered to life, static filling the screen. As I inched closer, the static cleared, revealing a grainy image of children. Faces twisted in silent screams, their eyes wide as if pleading for help. A chill raced down my spine. "What is this?" I breathed. I was captivated and horrified. I moved closer, unable to tear my gaze away. That's when I saw something flash in the background, a shadow darting past. My breath hitched.
Was it real? I had to know. I turned my head sharply to scan the room again. No shadows, just emptiness. As I faced the screen once more, the laughter shifted to shrieks. Panic roared anew. I turned on my heel, rushing back to where I believed the entrance lay. But the path felt infinite, and with every step, the sounds echoed louder. Just as I reached what I hoped was the door, I pounded on the surface. "Let me out!" My voice cracked, desperation clawing at me. But I felt no movement, just a hollow echo of my own cries. A thud sounded behind me. I spun around. The children from the screen now stood before me. Hazy figures, their features blurred. I could see them clearly now, grinning, ghostly smiles, their little hands beckoning me. "Join us forever," they whispered, their voices intertwining like a haunting melody. I backed away, heart racing, until I pressed against the door. It felt solid, yet I didn't dare move. What if they reached me first? Just as panic threatened to claim me, a loud crash shook the room, causing the figures to dissipate into thin air. "Get out!" I yelled, the urgency overwhelming me. But before I could react, the door creaked open. I squinted against the light piercing my vision. Freedom? Or was it another trick? As I stepped through, I glanced back one last time and froze. The children, now returned to the screen, waved goodbye, their faces permanently etched with those unnerving smiles. I stumbled back into the hallway, breathing heavily. What had just happened? I felt the weight of their gaze, even from behind the screen. The game's rules weren't what I thought. Whatever happened next, they wouldn't let me go easily. The hallway felt endless, stretching out in both directions under a flickering fluorescent light. I leaned against the wall, my heart still racing from what had just happened. Images of those ghostly children danced in my mind. What were they? Why now? I took a deep breath and rubbed my temples as I tried to collect my thoughts. I needed to find a way out. Turning left, I began to move cautiously, each footfall echoing ominously in the silence. The laughter still lingered in my ears, a haunting reminder of the twisted fun that had just unfolded. As I made my way forward, something on the floor caught my eye. A small, crumpled note. I bent down and picked it up, unfolding it with trembling hands. The words scrawled on it almost felt alive. "They can see you, just as you can see them." My stomach dropped. Had someone else experienced this? I looked around, the shadows seeming to grow. "This is insane," I whispered to myself. Everything about this night felt off. I decided to continue down the corridor when a faint sound made me stop. It was singing, childlike voices blending together in a sinister lullaby. "Close your eyes, it's time to sleep. We'll come for you if you don't." A chill washed over me, and I instinctively looked back toward the door I had just come through. Should I go back? But the thought of being in that room again, with those figures, made me want to run. Instead, I pressed onward, following the sound that seemed to pull me in. The singing led me to another room, this one adorned with faded paintings of children playing, but their expressions were twisted in discomfort. I felt a strong urge to leave, yet something compelled me to step inside. The door creaked ominously behind me as I entered, shutting with a soft thud. Then I saw it. The television was here too, but this time it wasn't static. The same children from earlier were on the screen, but now their eyes seemed to follow me. The images flickered, morphing into snapshots of me outside the empty play area. My heart pounded. How do they... Suddenly, the singing stopped. An eerie silence enveloped me. That's when I noticed a figure standing in the corner of the room, shrouded in shadow. It was small, mirroring the size of a child. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, but the outline stepped forward, revealing a pale face. "Are you lost?" it asked, voice soft yet chilling. "We can help you. Come and play with us." I stumbled backward, ready to bolt out the door, but the figure continued to approach. Every instinct screamed at me to run. I fumbled at the doorknob, desperate, only to find it wouldn't budge. Panic surged in my chest. "Join us," it repeated, the visage of innocence twisted into something grotesque. Just then, the television screen flickered with a new image, a countdown timer ticking down from 30 seconds. My stomach twisted into knots. I had to escape. The laughter echoed again, growing louder. I took one last look at the figure, now inches away, and then I yelled, "Let me go!" The words came out stronger than I felt, but the dread in my gut spurred me into action. I pushed against the door, throwing my weight against it. Suddenly, the door flew open, and I stumbled into the hallway, gasping for breath. But as I turned to run, the singing resumed, a joyful yet eerie sound that sent a wave of dread through me. I had to find out what it all meant. They were everywhere. I was not alone. Whatever was happening was far from over. The laughter pursued me, echoing through the hallways as I sprinted past flickering lights, the sounds morphing into a mocking cacophony. "Come back! Stay with us!" they echoed. I couldn't tell if it was a figment of my imagination or something much darker. The thick darkness seemed to breathe around me, wrapping its tendrils tighter with every hurried step I took. I rounded a corner, heart hammering so loudly I could barely hear myself think. The flicker of a distant bulb caught my eye, illuminating an exit sign down the corridor. My instincts flared, urging me to push harder, to reach for the hope of freedom that shimmered just beyond my grasp. As I moved closer, I could see shadows slipping past the edges of the door, small and darting, whispering in a soft chorus. "Not yet. You can't leave," they called out, that haunting sing-song quality penetrating through the thud of my heartbeat. I reached the exit. The door was heavy but gave in to my panic. I flung it open, stumbling onto the deserted mall's loading dock. The cool night air slapped against my flushed face. I gasped, inhaling fresh, crisp breaths. I was outside. I had made it. But the laughter halted, and an unnatural silence enveloped the space. I turned back, fear coursing through me, half expecting to see the dark figures emerging from the mall's depths. But the door swung shut behind me, sealing whatever horrors lurked within. Still breathless, I staggered backward to the open lot, where the stars twinkled above like distant eyes. My heartbeat started to settle, but the uneasiness left an imprint in my gut. I couldn't shake what I just experienced. It clung to me like a shadow. With trembling hands, I pulled out my phone, desperate to call for help. I dialed 911, but as the automated voice droned on, I became aware of my surroundings and noticed a flicker in the corner of my eye. There, by the edge of the parking lot, figures, fleeting between the vans, smiles wide and eyes gleaming. "Join us," they whispered, echoing from the recesses of my memory. Memory of the children. The bright faces untainted by time. My breath caught. Were they lost, like Lila? The moment shattered as the sirens wailed in the distance, breaking my stupor. I looked back toward the mall. There was no longer laughter, only a heavy silence, a quiet that gave me a chilling peace. Were the children forever caught within? Would they ever escape? As the police arrived, their headlights painted the asphalt in bright strokes. I couldn't look away from the darkened mall. I felt a pull, an unfinished connection that I couldn't explain. The officers approached, concern etched on their faces, asking what had happened. I told them about the figures, the whispers, the laughter, but even as I spoke, I knew their gazes turned skeptical. How could I make them understand what I'd encountered? They searched the mall, but found nothing, no trace of the odd occurrences or dark silhouettes. They chalked it up to fatigue, the mind playing tricks due to the long hours. As I drove away, I glanced back at the mall. A knot tightened in my stomach.
I didn't know if the children truly existed there or if they were fabrications of my fears, remnants of past nightmares mingling with twisted memories. The thought haunted me as I sped away, but I also felt a strange calm. I moved to a different city soon after. Still, there are nights when I lay awake and the echoes of laughter weave through my thoughts. Sometimes I wonder if Leela's spirit still wanders, still seeking friends. The memory stings, leaving questions unanswered, but I try to leave it behind. Yet, beneath the surface of my new life, that shadow lingers, just out of sight. I can't help but glance behind me sometimes, wondering if the children are just a whisper away, waiting to play. I know now that some places never let you go.